Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure and honor to be here with you and share my story, my case on how we implemented or how we adjusted Estonian electronic system for local governments in Georgian cities, and how, using this system, we implemented participatory budgeting. If there are any local political leaders or higher administrators among you, I hope that you get some practical tips really on how to engage citizens, how to open up your decision-making process, and also how to replicate, how to adjust some electronic systems from one country to another one. But before going on, before jumping to my presentation, I think that I have to explain very shortly what is participatory budgeting. This concept is pretty simple, that people submit ideas on how local government should spend taxpayers' money, mostly regarding infrastructure investments. Citizens provide ideas and vote on ideas, and local municipality is responsible to implement those. I'm going to walk you through the background story of the project, what this project is about, how we implemented, what exactly we did in Georgian cities, and what have been the results and what impact, in my opinion, it has had, and also, of course, some takeaways, some lessons learned we have from this process. So to the project. The project was all about, this project was funded by Estonian Cooperation Aid and USAID, and this was all about giving some practical advice, assistance to three Georgian cities, Kutaisi, Akhaltsikhe, and Batumi. Not talking about Tbilisi, so we're going to smaller cities and also to ministries, but my focus will be on cities, and as said, on how we implemented electronic system, VOLIS and participatory budgeting. Of course, in order to give practical assistance, we had to start from mapping the situation regarding previous practices of those cities, in engaging citizens. And of course, we trained a lot of local administrators, higher politicians, in order to raise awareness on what open governance and open decision-making means. And yes, of course, we analyzed what is the technical readiness before starting adjusting the electronic system. And as I said, a few words about background, why we are mostly in my program in e-Governance Academy focusing on local level, because exactly this local government, cities, rural municipalities is actually the closest link between citizens and the state. And our previous studies have proved also that actually this is exactly local level activism which boosts the general activism and engagement and open governance in countries. And in Estonia, we have been collaborating mostly since 2013, very closely with different cities and rural municipalities in order to train local administrators. And also we have introduced open governance partnership methodology to local municipalities in order to create more transparency and dialogue and crowdsourcing initiatives. Participatory budgeting I was mentioning, and I will talk more about this. And of course, in order to create more transparency and create new kind of dialogue and crowdsourcing citizens' ideas, you need some new tools. So I'm going to tell you more about this tool, what we adjusted. Just to give you some of the flavor of if we talk about tangible results or fruits of participatory budgeting. In my city, I'm coming from second largest city, Estonia, Tartu. We have implemented participatory budgeting since 2014, and there are many practical issues solved using this crowdsourcing exercise, collecting citizens' ideas. Like you see, some really practical issues have been solved thanks to citizens' input, but also some more creative, innovative ideas are popping up, more are popping up, like, you know, in my cities there have been transformed some areas based on citizens' input. If you are more interested, you can see our video clips about how to enhance, improve local democracy. I'm not going into this right now. I don't have time for that. Now about this tool, we started to adjust in Georgian context. This is Estonian electronic system for e-decision making for local municipalities. Initially, it was created to enable paperless decision-making process in municipalities, but it has many more functionalities which are much more important in the context of my presentation right now. It enables secure digital authentication. So, and this creates functionality also to implement all sorts of civic e-engagement initiatives to make referendums, polls, and crowdsourcing citizens' ideas. So this is perfect tool also to implement participatory budgeting. And just few words about very generic model of participatory budgeting, which we are using in Estonia mostly, and we now transfer to Georgian context as well. So preparation starts at the local municipality should define very clearly the goal. Is it infrastructure? We are starting to collect ideas from citizens. How much money do we have? And of course, we have to raise awareness about the process that it starts now. Then it's one of the core stages of this process, submission of ideas. So citizens, in our case, citizens submit ideas online on how to spend municipal budget. And then citizens are voting on ideas and the local municipality is implementing them. In Estonia, of course, we have deliberation phases, but we were starting from more basic model when we went to Georgia. And what have been, and as said, we implemented the same or adjusted the same electronic system and the similar model. And with what results? What has been the impact? From 3 cities, 2 cities picked up very quickly as they were basically showed or proved to be ready to implement the model from the very beginning. And Akhaltsikhe made very good progress. This is the smallest one. They implemented really this very direct democracy model, so they outsourced directly ideas from citizens and really let citizens vote on ideas, and the winning idea was implemented. Kutaisi used actually this consultative model of participatory budgeting. So citizens submitted directly ideas, but then there was one layer between, kind of consultative body, which out of 3 shortlisted ideas, voted 1 to be implemented. And this is actually the main message, that each city should find its own suitable model for participatory budgeting. But to me was actually inspired by the process, but decided that they are going to use their own electronic system, which is okay, of course. So both cities, 2 cities implemented a similar model and system, but in a slightly different way. But what is much more important really is that somehow this participation or civic engagement, which is in many cases kind of like buzzword that everybody uses, nobody knows what is it. So it got kind of institutionalized, legalized for both cities, and they really continue implementing this exercise and have opened up more decision decision-making processes. So this is really very good learning by doing exercise and easily actually replicable everywhere. Just to show you the result in Akhaltsikhe, the winning idea was really to plant hundreds of new trees, so really to make new green areas in the city. And this is just a screenshot of the system, how it is in Georgian. But what have been the biggest challenges and lessons learned we have gained from this process? Well, the biggest challenge really, and this is not only for Georgia, but this is in many countries, going now back a bit to our president's speech yesterday, is that actually the lack of secure or recognized, legally recognized digital authentication, because this process is only doable. Well, in pilot stage, yeah, you could do, our key persons did a lot of manual work, creating passwords for citizens in order to submit ideas. But actually you have to, this is the biggest obstacle actually to do all different sorts of civic engagement initiatives. Of course, low awareness and usage of e-solutions. It's not just Georgian problem, it's problem everywhere. So you need to do a lot of campaign before starting any kind of civic engagement initiative. Of course, political unsustainability is a big challenge we experienced very personally, because in between there were local elections in Georgia. So we basically started to train the local key persons from the scratch, because there were completely new ones. And we were not ready that even administrative staff, even IT specialists will be new ones after elections, which is not the case in Estonia, but it happened. So we really started from scratch, and this is not okay. So somehow, in order to achieve success in implementing any kind of electronic systems and civic engagement initiatives, you have to have like more stable mechanism in place. And of course, timing matters. It's not good idea to start engaging citizens in summertime or whatever. Small details, but it's actually what matters. And just few takeaways before I'm closing, that really any tool is miraculous weapon, but actually they support nicely any kind of, opening up decision-making process. And it is good advice to start small, but start now. There probably will never be a situation where you have smarter officials or, more money. Just start doing something now. And yes, engage citizens only if possible. And yes, thank you. I think that I have done now. My time is up.
Thank you, Kristina, for presenting the wonderful work which has been done. We have a couple of questions. I had a question in my mind, but a participant beat me to the mark, so I'm going to ask it. The question was, what is the amount of funds which was allocated during this participatory budgeting process? And my addition to that question is there room for increasing that percentage? And what could be the sort of practical maximum? Would it be reasonable that the entire budget be decided in a participatory manner? Or where is the logical, practical limit?
Yeah, actually, there are studies. Of course, I'm realistic that always, whenever I start assisting or advising cities, I'm very realistic that I don't believe that they are ready from the very beginning to risk with a lot of money. So in Tartu, in my city, we started with 140,000 euros, but now the budget to be decided by citizens is 200,000 euros. So also not so very big money, actually.
But what's that as a percentage of the total?
In Tartu, well, this is again like each city has to find its own model, and also in Tartu, and also what part of budget or which budget it will be decided. In Tartu, it was decided from the very beginning that as this is investment or tangible object citizens are deciding for. This is coming from investment budget. In Tartu, we started having 1% of investment budget of the city, what at that time was 140,000 euros. Now it has increased. In Georgia, of course, we started small, as I said. There are cities still feel that there is risk involved, and probably this is right. So we started, I'm not good at laris, but it was, as far as I remember, it was 30,000 laris. But in Akhaltsikhe, it was understood, even in the middle of process, that actually it is going so well that citizens have picked this up so nicely that they increased. Even in the middle of the process, they decided to increase the budget. So it's, and then there are studies which say that actually there is clear linkage between the amount to be decided and actually the motivation of citizens, of course, to be participating. And yeah.
Excellent. Which actually brings me to the next question, which has arrived from the audience, is what is the buy-in from the population? What is the actual rate of participation? How many people care about trees or other projects? What's the percentage or what's the feedback that you have received?
Well, in Georgia, still the percentage is quite small, because also partly related to those technical problems I was referring to. In Tartu, the number of participants is increasing all the time. So now it is already more than 8% of those people who are at voting age and who have voting right in any election. So it depends. Mostly in Paris, for instance, where citizens can decide on millions of euros, the percentage of those who participate is not more than 8 also. So it's, you can't expect that actually there are so many thousands or millions of active people or people who are interested. But it is still one very good additional opportunity for those who care.
But I think 8% out of the total eligible population for a project in a piloting stage is a pretty good result. I'm going to have one last question, Kristina, to you, and then I'm going to let you go. How do you address the issue related to government sustainability when it comes to participatory budgeting? Is there some sort of a PPP, a public-private partnership option? How does that have an effect if there is a government or a system of governance which is, well, shall we say, unstable or unsustainable?
Yeah, I think the model which is implemented in Estonia, in Tartu, is also very good, that we as independent NGO are involved and coordinating. So at least in the beginning, we coordinated the process. So we are fully independent, non-political organization, and we were basically taking the lead on this process. In Georgia, and generally I advise to cities, and in Georgia as well, probably there is not at the moment so strong NGO who is ready to take the lead. But then I just advise to give this lead to communication management department, which is mostly still, I know it can change as well, or stuff can change. But for me, any kind of civic engagement is most of all just communication. Two-sided communication. So it is, my experience tells me that it is mostly successful when communication department and staff is taking care of this process.
And communication, even when governments come and go, departments, officials, communication departments often remain in place.
Exactly.
So they are the ones that have to carry the burden.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Kristina.